Become a member and support the channel. Old World Tactics, Battle Reports, the 2plus podcast.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the 2plus podcast. It's Paddy and Alex here again, and we're going to today run through our results at Spring Fling, the recent tournament we went to, our takeaways generally from that, and generally tournament play, and what it means moving forward more broadly for Games Workshop, and what we have planned in the coming months that we think maybe tackles a bit of that in a way of running a tournament with a little bit of comp in it. The endless discussion of comp is back, but we'll get to that in a second. Alex, thanks for being here again. How's it going?
Good. I noticed my pigment is a little bit improved. I hope it lasts. My solar callus that's developed while I'm away. I'm like, wow, I'm a different colour on the screen.
You've got the Queensland glow. You've had a great time gallivanting around in Queensland.
Crocodiles, turtles, sorry, turtle. That was the highlight for me.
Oh, better than a crocodile?
Yeah, definitely.
Wow. You've never seen a turtle before?
Magnificent. Well, I was like right up close, you know. Look, a bit turtle-ish. Just the neck.
But just the neck. Yeah.
Just as for the non-Spotify people.
That's right. But that was last week. Before that, the weekend before that, we were playing at the Western Sydney Wargamers' latest iteration of Oldhammer. Oldhammer 7? Oldhammer 6?
I couldn't remember either. It's dangerous to put those.
This was Spring Flings. They do a 3-monthly, essentially, once a season tournament. 2,000 points. Now it is 2,000 points with some pretty objective focused scenarios. 3 rounds, 40 players. It's getting the reputation of being one of the best run, if not one of the hardest, if not one of the generally best tournaments in Sydney, definitely. In New South Wales, probably. And we would put our flag in the ground at probably in the country with some hot competition. At least I would. But I've only been to that one, so you can roast me in the comments as you wish. But we both performed pretty well. You went 3-0, 3 wins, no losses, running vampire counts. I went 2 wins and a draw, playing orcs and goblins. So both pretty happy with our results. You came 3rd, congratulations. And I finished 5th. So both, pretty proud of our results, I think you can say. Nothing wrong with that. But generally, overall, before we get into the nitty-gritty of vampire counts, what was your experience?
Yeah, great. As usual, really. Definitely had a different mindset this time around, I think, in the way that trying to win and prove a point, as if you're listening to this channel, ChatGPT said I had the hardest army at the event, and that was deliberate. And I sort of felt like anything less than 3-0 would have been disappointing. So I don't feel pride. Funnily enough, it was interesting because someone said on the way out, because I always leave something behind. Like once I left a stool behind that was very valuable to my family. Thank you, West. This is the type, when people talk about, look, if I left it at Moab, would I got it back? Rookie, Tio, I don't know. But they got that stool back to me. So I was greatly appreciative. I think that, someone said to me on the way out, I was back out with my stuff, oh, now you know how Actar feels. I said, all I feel is shame. So, I felt like I played well, but I don't feel like I did anything except, I did what the army did, and I came away even more committed, I guess, the idea that it is playing Warhammer on easy mode, which we can get into later in the games.
Yeah. I've had a pretty vocal opinion about Undead for a while. I think it's pretty average Warhammer at the pointy end of it. It's pretty uninteractive. And I'm kind of happy that you went through the process of playing vampire counts, because I have no interest in doing it. I think it's seriously flawed. And I think the results around the world for the last 6 months kind of prove that everyone, if you want to, does well with vampire counts. But you've got the data on it, not me. I'm just a vibes guy. But I had a pretty different feeling at the end of Oldhammer. I was pretty proud of how the results I got playing Orcs and Goblins without 9 fanatics for one. It was a balanced list. I'm not saying it was a soft list, but it wasn't top tier, hard meta Orcs and Goblins. But to beat Cathay and to tie with Double Dragon Chaos, I was pretty happy with. So I've got some photos which we'll run through a bit, and without doing battle reports, we can kind of just break down some of the drama and what was causing that drama, which is kind of the important part of it to me. What's actually the part of the game that's creating those moments. But as always, we should shout out our major sponsor, Pandemwargaming. Jeff, who... Let me just get that up full screen. Jeff, who is part of the local community, is going out solo, printing some great material, high-quality plastic stuff, terrain, base converters, bases, all that sort of thing. Some templates, which you'll see in some of these photos, that are incredible and really add to the battlefield. So if you are interested in buying some of that stuff, follow the link in the description. We get a little kickback, so that always helps. And we'd also like to shout out while shaking out our 2+ supporters, our paid supporters on Patreon and YouTube. If you would like to support the channel further, please follow the links in the description. Ghost, Silver Dave, Sick, Pandemwargaming, Gomo, Katro, Joshua, Dan Macco, Nathan Carey, Adam Cesperez, Not Matt, and Anthony Cruz, and the boys themselves, the Western Sydney Wargamers, who ran the event we're talking about, do a fantastic job and are running, as I said, one of the best tournaments going around, we think. But you can see on screen, I've got a couple photos. I'm on the left, you're on the right. This is your game 1 against Old World Fanatics, Gomo. Your vampire counts front and center, his beastman in the distance. How did this play out?
Yeah, look, I suppose you can... Look, this is probably the most covered game in the history of the world. Gomo's spoken about it at Old World Fanatics, and I did a very long video about the way that I wanted to approach it. Funnily enough, it didn't work out that way. Gomo sort of talked about not listening to it, which is great, like as a surprise, which I found like funny and comforting as well. So for me, it was... probably the power of, like, the drama of the game was the power of Viletide. I thought I had things going the way I wanted them to. He had an unusual setup with the Dragon Ogres, but got off a lot of Viletides that I had to maneuver around, but I was saved by Invocation, going from 5 to 21 Graveguard in a turn. Then, yeah, my Black Coach, there's a video out there about lumbering. I was able to win on the left-hand flank, and that led to a cascade of... like just folding, like panicking through the army, which was really interesting for starters. But then in the middle, it's sort of got, there's a video out today, Impassable Terrain video, about I was able to squish his unit with Crowmore in it and win in the center. So even though we didn't get to turn 6, I cleaned up all of the objectives and got his Herdstone and got a pretty big win in the end. I think it was starting to fold, but it wasn't a game where I won from screaming things down at all. I don't think I successfully screamed anything in the game. It was an unusual just squeezing game where Gomo didn't come forward full send like I expected at all. And instead I had to sort of dick around the edges. But in the end, I think the dice for me are just more consistent, even if the Viletides were massive throughout the game.
It's interesting you point out the screams, because I've always held a particular salt for the screams, because I hate how it's just like there's no... Yes, you have to get close enough to do it, but you just say, I'm going to scream that. There's no dice roll involved. You can't do anything about it. You can't dodge it. You can't miss. It's just a point. And I scream that and you kill your own models, which I think is about as bad as it gets. But your takeaway so far... Yeah.
Is this not the worst thing?
Yeah, it's not the worst thing.
No, my takeaway from it was it's the least bad thing out of a lot of bad things, to tell you the truth. I think it's, you have to get closer and you don't have any options but the scream. Is probably, like, I had Ruby Ring that was meant to be like a bit of a tech thing, and it was shit all day. So and that wasn't like the rolling. It was just not as good as I needed it to be. But the screaming, like I'd have to get closer, which meant that if an army didn't want to come to me, it was a lot harder to do. And like I think I was still only 6 games into playing vampires. There's other things going on. But compared to Resurrecting the Fallen, or even my pet peeve is the Battle Standard Bearer. Like how many bailouts I just got from that, and I failed a lot of 9. I rolled 9 up twice, a lot on the day, and yet the BSB is just extraordinary. Like getting to reroll those leadership tests and provide the Graveguard in core is a big deal. The screaming will come up more in my other games, but yeah, to me it was the weakest bit, and I sort of feel like with the power level in the metagame, something like that. Sadly, I wish it was Crowmore's little thing. I think that's more fun and it's harder to pull off. But yeah, the -2 and the thing, I do hate it too, because the games are so swingy. Like in the next game, Tom just rolls a 10 straight up, makes it easy. I had more screams to go. I'd spent the time setting it up. But I've played games where, yeah, people roll on. In the last game, Dave rolled a lot under 5, like maybe 3 of 4 leadership tests. So it's just that 2d6 to win or lose the game right there is not great.
Yeah, and on the counter as well, Undead aren't playing leadership at all, and when they do, they get to re-roll it because they're BSB.
Yeah, that's why the BSB, like the leadership's terrible, but like the BSB just I don't have to worry about it because of the BSB. Like the re-rolling anything, just odds are go up astronomically on a re-roll. So anyway, it was good. I appreciate Gomo's great. Like. No dramas, very casual game. I think it was just I'm probably slower than I think, but I think it was just him not full sending. And that's what screaming does too. Like, what do? Like, run headlong into it and just risk the dice? I think the better players I play with it, yeah, they think, I've got to stay outside of 15. And I don't know if vampires can really, like, do a lot there, so I could see this army ending up in a lot of drawish scenarios.
Yeah, I've played Vampire Counts twice, and one time they had Blood Knights, and I thought, but maybe Black Coach kind of does the same thing. It's kind of the thing that catches the things that run away. I was also playing that game with Frenzied Wild Riders, which is just kind of awful in that matchup, because you really just want to avoid the whole thing for as long as possible. But the other game was with Orcs and Goblins, where against mainly foot infantry, and I found it easier just to kind of play on my terms, and that worked for me. And that was essentially a Screams list. They still had Blood Knights, but my matchup beat the Blood Knights, which snowballed into a win. But your list there on the screen, like you've got a flying... Can the Terrorgeist march because it can fly? Or is that a...
Yeah, but the Terrorgeist was pretty bad, to tell you the truth. Like massive base size is a problem. You don't want to march because you want to scream, and so it just sort of sits at the back. And I think the metagame is turned against large targets. So like if you've got a lot of large targets, then they have to pick one. But if you've got 1 or 2, a lot of those really powerful things are like, all right, I'll just keep going at that thing. And in this game, that's what Gomo did really. Like he could Viletide, he went after the Terrorgeist, eventually got it down, and that was. Most of the points I lost throughout the day was just that Terrorgeist dying. But yeah, I had to dick around at the edges because it could jump in, and if my screens go off, I win. If they don't go off, I can then get charged. And that's sort of the thing. Like that was the weakness of playing the Graveguard with shields and swords, which was good because I only had 20 or so models to play. But you really need them to hit with great weapons to sort of be able to beat things in the game. But yeah, like it was a really good game. I appreciated it. I think like the first mission was very well designed. I think it's probably the outer limit. I mean, we'll get to what you think with your game as well, Paddy, in a second. But for me, it was sort of the outer limit of, is this adding too much game time to play? But I thought it was a very clever terrain placement. And I thought there was a lot of interaction with that terrain. And the dice roll mattered at the start of the game and things like that. So I thought it was a clever... And the battle points I thought were quite fair for what you gained. And with domination and the essential objective sort of not synergistic, you had to sort of decide. So getting both of them was more just this sort of avalanche that Gomo's line just fell apart at the turn when I needed it to.
Yeah, I really liked this scenario. So for everyone at home, we're not going to pull out the pack, but there's a what do you call it? Not a secret object, not a secondary object, special feature in the middle. That impassable there. 2 forests, which at this tournament are dangerous terrain. 2 hills you can see there, and this is what's it called? Something chance encounter. You roll for a quarter, and your opponent has to deploy in the opposing quarter. So you're deploying there, or here, and there's 2 impassables on the other quarter. But this is my game against Cathay. I agree. I really like this scenario. It makes you think a lot. Thankfully, we had practiced this at our tournament only a month before that. 2 weeks? What was it, a month before that? So it was, I think you needed to practice it though, because the terrain played such a big part in it, I think. And you could use it to your advantage, which is great for All Games Warhammer. But I was playing Paul's Cathay, which I've made 2 videos about now, with 1 lantern, 1 Shigangan Lord, 2 cannons, 2 fire rain rocket batteries, and 3 units of Jade Warriors. So it wasn't by any means 4 lanterns, but I did get to see for the first time the power of Cathay, and I can see how it would be a problem, especially because it's come at a time where everyone has kind of been reinvigorated by infantry, and this thing is the infantry destroyer. Like, it killed 16 Black Orcs in a turn and a half, toughness 4, 3+, 3+ armor save. Like, it's about as tough as infantry can get. And it just obliterated them with its normal shooting. Not the template barely did a thing. It was just the Dragonfire bombs, which I think is a real problem. But one I was able to handle. I ended up winning this 13-9. But you can see how people are kind of a bit pissy about Cathay. The balloon was intense. The Shigangan Lord in a challenge to my Black Orc champion did something like 13 wounds because he got to cast Spectral Doppelganger and swing with his Monkey King Wisdom. He probably, I don't know, the same initiative step hadn't finished. So yeah, he got to do it twice. 4 attacks went through, 4 wounds, D3 wounds times 4. And then Spectral Doppelganger went off. He got like 7 wounds went through, and it was something in the end, like, I think it was 9 D3 wounds went through. And thankfully I'd thrown that Black Orc in to take the challenge instead of my Wyvern getting slapped down, which ended up being kind of the key part of the whole game. It ended up meaning my Wyvern lived and his Shigangan Lord died at the end of the game. But the other big takeaway against Paul, and this, for anyone who watched the video, I have nothing against Paul, I like Paul, but Cathay, his first turn I think took like 25 minutes just because he had so much shooting. The double shooting times 4, the template on the balloon, the shooting attack of the balloon. So I can't imagine how it would feel when there's more balloons and more cannons. The Jade Warriors did their job, and I think that's kind of the good thing about Cathay that plays into the current system of Old World, which is they did their job. They held an objective. They scored 2 battle points. There was 3 units of them. Sure, they didn't kill a thing. Well, actually, that's true. They fought off a mangler. They, yeah, as I said, held an objective and scored some points and did their job. They kind of feel okay. But yeah, okay. The rest of the list just kind of, I don't know. You can understand.
It's a point you make. I think though the point about the non-interactive turns is a big deal. So it's hard to go in. There's a bigger picture takeaway, I suppose, about Cathay and arriving when everyone was interested in playing infantry again. And that the infantry that's the one redeeming feature. One of the redeeming features of Undead is you do have a lot of infantry fights, which are sort of at least a lot of dice on both sides. But I think the data is in that I'm probably below average speed now in playing or play complicated armies where there's just so many meaningless shots and spells. Like with Undead, you could cast 7. I had 9 spells or something. And like 6 of them probably didn't matter. You know, like, let's see if I can get this off. Why not drop a column out, 12 inches away? It's probably not going to do anything, but when you're sitting there trying to make the most optimal play, are you playing a 2-player game? And I think there's a lot. I like the 6s for things like Armor Bane, Monster Slayer. I like that in the game, that 1s and 6s are sort of sacrosanct. But there's so many things that you could just trim and they would make no difference in the game at all. So it's a shame that, these sorts of ranged attacks or magic abstractions, they do take away from the excitement. And it's good that the drama sort of builds in Warhammer and sort of peaks on turn 4 or 3 or something when the big things either win or lose combat. But the shooting at the start, because they either miss and then they're pissed off, or they hit and you're pissed off. And it's just not what you're there to do. You want to see, I have a moment later where a Black Hawk champion takes on the BSB. And it's great. They're sort of evenly matched, and it was the dice had to go one way. But when it's shooting, it's sort of like, well, it can't really go more than one way, because you're either like, oh, my thing didn't shoot properly, or I shot your stuff off the board and obliterated your infantry unit. And I think the damage that some of these big hitters, as Sharpty Outriders, are doing is just gross. It's killing 20 to 30 guys.
Yeah, I think the only time I've felt that way in the past was playing against Mortuary Cult, where there was 10 spells, 40 poison archers, and 7 Ushabti, and a screaming skull catapult, and all that stuff. And if you don't go first, you stand there getting obliterated by an entire army, and it hurts a lot. So, I don't know. There's room to touch up Cathay, I think, for the user experience on both ends. But it was a good game. I won, so I was happy. But that's kind of my Cathay business, which will play into a bit more chats later. This is your game against Tom from Old World Behemoths. Shout out them on YouTube. Check them out, another Australian podcast, if you haven't already. What's going on here? He's running ogres. How did this play out?
Yeah, probably more videos coming, but the baggage train is behind the tower or building that's in the top left of this photo, and the game is really about that. The Black Coach was a star in this game. I think I sort of won this game in deployment. I won the roll. So this was the mission I was worried about the most, that if my opponent didn't engage with me, I would have nothing. But I won the roll in the sense that Tom had to put his baggage train down first, which was great. So I could then put mine as far away as possible, but also sort of come up with a plan to get his, which was pretty much just get the Black Coach onto it with the Fellbats. And luckily for me, he started deploying Noblars to defend it. And I was like, oh, this is great. I was going to smash these Noblars, but I don't want him to get a vibe that that's what I'm going to do. So I have to keep this Black Coach till last to deploy. And fortunately, there'll be photos in my sort of wash up where I could just run it straight at these Noblars ahead, like March 20, Ethereal. I could deploy behind a hill, March 20, and then charge them the next turn, and that would sort of take me as far enough over. Luckily for me, he failed that terror check. I mean, they are leadership 5, but if he passes it, it can be a bit dicey if I don't roll high on the impact hits to break that unit. But he fled off the board with the first unit. That meant that I could then go for this unit, this baggage train pretty much unencumbered. He brought other units over to try to defend it. Terror checked another group of Noblars off later. In the middle, I got Hellish Vigor off every time. So I felt like I rolled a bit better. I felt like in the first game, Gomo rolled a little bit better than me on Vile Tides, and that sort of slowed down what I could do. In this game, because I was getting Hellish Vigor off every turn, I could just optimize the Scream setup. So Tom had to sort of inch his way forward and eventually puts himself in a position to go for it the next turn, and I just scream the Sky Cannon and knock it out in the first scream straight up. And then it's just like, well, you're going to have to go in single-handed and then get multi-charged by everything I've got. So by that stage, he sort of realizes that it's not going to be successful. I'm going to get the baggage train. I pull back everything. I'm happy for 14-10, or it might have been 15-9 at best. But I could push ahead. But the Stonehorn Rider and it's this Death Star. If I am too aggressive, I could have screwed up and lost. So I just pulled back. And then there was a series of like an unlikely, like really super unlikely rolls Tom could have made to sort of push me off the objective, but 2 units getting in meant I was going to get it. And it just came away with this scenario. I think it just needed something extra. The baggage trains being worth the equivalent of 1,000 kill points is just a lot. So maybe something else like in the middle to draw you away from it would have been helpful. It was. I thought I was fortunate to get the matchup and the deployment I needed to just pull off a plan, but it was probably a pretty cagey game otherwise.
What's your vibe on ogres? I've never played against ogres.
I like them. Like with the guy who was on Old World Legends and the way that the behemoths sort of have built it, I think like demons, they're just a really fun army that has a lot of variation in it. Probably demons is more like you've got units that do everything. I think you have to play the Death Star block, but then you've got all these other options around it, like Yetis, Mournfang cavalry that hit super hard. You've got the Stonehorn Rider there that doesn't see a lot of play. The Sky Cannon, Lead Belchers. So yeah, I'm not a huge fan of ogres lore-wise. So I think they're good, and they're one of those armies like with a lot of flavor that's probably playable enough. Unlike Lizardmen, or even now I think Chaos Dwarves are probably out too. I think you could probably play ogres and you could win a tournament if things go your way. I couldn't touch that unit. Yeah, I wasn't going to attack that Death Star unit. It was just going to hit back too hard. So
Tom did well. I think he came 10th, went 2-1. So congratulations, Tom. This is one of those templates we were talking about from Jeff. This is Column of Crystal, which looks sick. Well done for painting that up. Looks awesome. My game, I also got a favourable matchup, I guess you would call it. This was Alex Pav running Expeditionary Force, but with no gyros and no sappers. So it was 5 artillery, 2 units of scouts, a unit of warriors, and a unit of ambushing miners, which, God bless him, they were good. They came on behind. I forgot all about him. The ambush champion moved everything out, and he goes, "Oh, sick! I'll just pop them on at the end of my table next to my baggage train." So I had to turn my Black Orcs around.
Oh my God, with the baggage train as well. That's great.
Yeah, after being they took, like, my Black Orcs were just a pin cushion the entire day, which was fine because they are relatively tough. But I won this 17. I think I got 17 points here. Can't remember. 17. The baggage train is a big deal when it's worth 4 battle points or 1,000 kill points. I think I must have won 19 or something. Can't remember. But I killed all of his artillery, 2 units, the units of scouts, his characters, and then got his baggage train. Doom Divers, this is about the time in the tournament I realised Doom Divers are like so good. I've had mixed results with them in the past, but they were just sniping everything. The D3 minimize on the scatter it happens so often you don't realise. And there's a point probably with the Cathay balloon, because of his base size, like it's a scatter on a 6, and you might even still direct hit him. Like if you roll the 3 inches, maybe it's a 4, but it's a 50-50 chance at worst to direct hit a balloon, using scattering minimization. And I was like, he rolled terribly on his artillery, and he even said, like, that's how artillery goes, it's swingy. Sometimes the game before it was running hot. He rolled 5 out of 8 misfires turn 1, and I rolled 2 direct hits into 2 direct hits and just killed each artillery, and then the Wyvern got in and run amok. But the other key takeaway for this one, and it's the reason I had them in the list, was Kicknick and the ambushing Wolf Riders, which again were pivotal against Cathay. But this time I ambushed them just because it's perfect for the baggage train. They didn't kill it in the end, but they would have if my Wyvern didn't get there. Like, my Wyvern could have just kept stuffing around out here, and they just 18-inch reserve move when ambushing on the board from there will get them into base contact with the baggage train. And I almost forgot that's kind of the catch with the baggage train. If you go second, which I did, you kind of forget to get there. I don't know, if your opponent hasn't got there, you're like, oh, I can just get that later. But you have to get there at the end of turn 5. Otherwise, it doesn't count if you get there on turn 6. And that's the mistake I made the first time I played it. But thankfully not this time. But it kind of reinforced dwarves for me. Unless you are going gyros, I can't see how they are that competitive. So shout out Darwy After Dark for consistently doing well with them, because every time I play them, I seem to do okay against them. But that was my round 2. This is your round 3 against Dave R. Robertson running. So this is the other template we got here. This is, what's it called? What's the necromancy?
Spiritual Vortex.
Spiritual Vortex. So I love these things. I'm going to be getting some soon. So pumped for that. But how did this play out?
I think we're both tired to start. But I think I like this scenario a lot. We've played it once. This is the 3rd time I've played it. So I think to begin the game, I thought Dave deployed quite well. I'd taken Fellbats earlier, which were huge in both of the first 2 games. I didn't really have a big plan for this one except to sort of sit the skeletons on whatever objective I could get. Because I can't remember what we call this. It's not a chance encounter. In my head, they're all a chance encounter.
This one's drawn
battle lines. Yeah. The names are just whatever. Diagonal attack or something. It's what I would think in my mind. But it was like was just going to sit the skeletons who were sort of weirdly like purely C grade all day. Like on the first thing they sat on a Leering Spirit, and the second one they hugged the border of the board on the extreme, guarding the baggage train, and actually 4 of them died in that game. But in this game, it was just sit on the objective that was within my reach in deployment, and the Graveguard was going to hit the other one, and the zombies were going to protect the Graveguard's flank. So in the end, that's what happens to like spectacular success. But to begin with, I thought Dave deployed really well in the sense that the worst thing, I mean, it might seem obvious, but naturally he put his manglers 1 on each side, and that was like, if that hadn't happened, I felt like I had a pretty easy route towards winning. He did sort of not realize the Black Coach. I pumped the Black Coach forward. He brought a mangler up to meet it, and I just flew over the top of it the next turn. I didn't charge it, and I think he was trying to prevent that. But fly marching automatically on the fly, being ethereal, I mean, there wasn't anything he could do anyway, but I think he probably brought his mangler too far forward, which meant I could scream it. Leadership 4, hilariously, it popped. But he had a bunch of other random movers on the high flank for me, which took me longer to deal with. He rolled pretty well on the screen. I had a bunch of screaming on that side, and I just gave up the right side completely. There are videos, obviously, coming out about... I did think I was pretty creative with Fellbats in this game. You can see on the shot ahead that the Black Coach is in the back doing what the Black Coach does. And I do want to give Dave a bit of credit. When it became obvious I was going to win, that Black Coach is just going to wipe all his war machines, but if he wanted to, he could have scratched his ass a bit, picked his nose, and time would have fallen, and he definitely sped up his last turn, so we were going to get one more turn, which meant that instead of it just being close, I got to sort of roll him in the 4th turn. In the middle, sadly, I think my lack of familiarity with some of the Orcs and Goblins meant I should have popped this column earlier, but that like his Black Orcs at full tilt hit the Graveguard, and I lost combat by 3. Then I drew the next combat. Then I won the next combat and broke him. And it was just like, this was his best unit, has a general on Warbot in it. There is some funky stuff in the video that came out today about how this crystal column allowed me to catch his Black Orc unit, which gave me enough victory points to know I was going to win by a lot. But even just silly things like that zombie unit, which is up to 35 at this point, he couldn't get any units to charge it because they outnumbered the fear test all of his units had to take to charge it. He just failed all of them, like 4 over 2 turns. So, yeah, there were things like that where I think Dave hadn't played Undead before, and it did feel a bit gross, like some of the effects towards the end, like especially both of those templates down. The fact that like the Graveguard just shrugged off this Black Orc charge with all of the trimmings, the zombies going up, that all just worked out. So I did get a big win in the end, which was, good in the sense that it all worked out the way we thought. But yeah, it was a pretty safe game from the get-go, this one. There was a bit of a list mismatch, and credit to Dave, who's playing the sort of list most of us would like to play against. It's always a pleasure. I think, there's a lot of diversity in what he does. And of course, like there's always new additions to his Australiana theme, which are always, I guess, interesting, even the little features he adds to them.
Yeah, I think he's got a wyvern coming, so that'll make things a little bit better for him.
A little bit more interesting.
Yeah. What's it like when there's a list mismatch? Because Vampire Counts is one that you see table a lot of people, and often that, to me, is a list mismatch, not a skill mismatch.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And like, I'll do this in 2 stages. Like, I'll do the wash up with you after your 3rd game, but because I don't want to take the shine. Like, I think you did punch above your weight, Paddy, like with that list. And I think there was a guy playing a Troll Horde list who did really well too. But really the top, like, was full of like broken garbage in my mind. And yeah, I guess it can go into some of those aspects later. But to me, the interesting thing, because the first tournament, I just didn't really know what I was doing. And the scenarios are complicated enough that even though I won on kill points all the games, I lost all of the scenarios. So I wasn't really playing strategically. This time, it was just the safety of the dice rolls. You just don't fail anything. Like, you still, I lost some guys, I'll bring them back. Oh, I didn't roll this spell. Well, I'll just roll my other redundant spell that does this. Like, even Hellish Vigor, not getting it off on a 10, which is ludicrous when everyone has reserve move. Even just giving 1 unit reserve move, which is in that lumbering video, is a 7. So you're needing to roll a 4 to get that off. And you can sometimes be far back. And then I am probably like a big fan of Black Coach, which is not in a lot of these other lists, but because it's been extraordinary for me, and it's not even seen as like a default pick in the unit, but like it won me all my game. It was a big player in all my games, a big point scorer. So Mortis Engine, like, I don't think I play with Mortis Engine particularly well, but the safety of, I'll just throw up this column in the middle, or I will just terror check something or use fear against a unit. There's so many dice rolls they're making that are devastating if they fail, and they're making a lot of them. And there's so many I'm not making, like, my unit might give ground, or, okay, I just lost 15 guys to Viletide. I know I'm going to get probably 10 back minimum. So yeah, like, I knew I could just wait, and I didn't go for the big wins due to the lack of how I was playing, or like I didn't have the most aggressive list. I think with Great Weapons, I could do that. I've sort of seen a few more lists now and how they work and how they might win more quickly, but I could just wait it out because I knew eventually the dice would go my way or my opponent would have to roll too many. And that was sort of the theme of the day, where eventually the normal dice rolls of other people caught up with them, and I would just continue to do nonsense stuff. But yep, they didn't have to roll for.
Yeah.
That was what I felt like. That's what I felt like during the day.
Yeah, I think there's just not a lot of risk when you're skewed vampire counts. Like, the stuff, there's re-rolls, there's immune to psychology.
I don't think even in the non-skew there is.
Yeah.
I don't think there is. I think it's the lack of, like, I think the easy mode, and because I've played demons, like, you're just so vulnerable to being killed. So if it was just resurrection plus ITP stuff, I still think it would be pretty, like, it's not costed properly for starters. And I think that's been a long-term problem with Warhammer, because I felt like it was true when I was playing a long time ago. But the other stuff, oh my God, like, just even magic, and like, you have a lot of ways to do things that just, yeah, as you say, take the risk away. And I think you could skew harder. Like, I thought Actars was actually more skew than mine, but I think that it's just, yeah, you're just not rolling the dice other people are rolling, and not by a small amount. Like, elves where you move a long way, but if you get hit by a stiff breeze, you're dead. It's more, you're just not rolling psychology. You're not rolling, like, even though you're not really meant to be able to move very far, you have so many ways to mitigate that with flyers and hellish vigor. Yeah, it just felt very easy, and I could just wait all day for stuff to go wrong for my opponents.
Yeah, well, get ready, because I'll show you what it's like to roll psychology, Alex. This was my final game against Cameron Bond, who's been to a couple of our tournaments. Great guy. First time playing against him. He's running 2 dragons. Is it the Exalted Champion on the Chaos Dragon, a Warpfire Dragon, and then a Chaos Lord on a Manticore. Then a big block of Chaos Knights, a big block of Forsaken, and then Marauders in core, essentially. We drew 12 all, and this was a really fun game. A massive old scrap in the middle, which the Black Orcs, again, just took a beating for like 3 turns, but did their job. Like, occupied the Warpfire Dragon, killed the Warpfire Dragon, got killed by the other dragon, but on turn 4, so they kind of soaked up a lot of time for me. The Doom Divers, again, they were just popping stuff off. Wyvern and Kicknick ended up clearing the back lines. But what it came down to was me failing 2 Leadership 9 terror checks with my Night Goblins on my turn 5 and turn 6. So first, like, this entire middle gets cleared out. He's left with his Manticore and his dragon here, facing my Night Goblins at about 18, 19 inches away. First time he charges them, I fail my first terror check. They have Warband, so I think they're Leadership 9 with the Shaman in there, maybe even 10, regardless, whatever it was, I failed. So I flee. They don't go off the board. I rally them. He is able to get closer, charge them again. I fail again. On the next turn, he guns me down. I had managed to get my Shaman out of there, but there was still 250 points, essentially, more, that just got terrored. The rest of the game was fighting the entire time, but psychology decided it points-wise. I had a champion in there. I had a Night Goblin boss in there as well. They weren't going to get cut down in 1 turn. Maybe they do, who knows, but I don't think they were. That's not taking away from the game, but it just kind of shows you how a dice roll can decide it. And certain armies just don't have that risk. And it takes a lot of the fun out of it. This was a fun way to end a game. It was like, we knew it was tight. It ended up being 16 points between us or something in the end. But it felt like a great game of Warhammer. It had everything in it. And it hasn't been my experience seeing your list, for example. But overall, a great way to end the tournament. Double Dragon is legit. And you can see, I'll just quickly share the results, because we can kind of go into takeaways from this, because this kind of says a lot. Chris Shah won double Chaos Dragon again. Actor, you with Vampire Counts. Avoidance, Dark Elves with the Dragon. Cameron, who I just played, double Dragon. Me with Orcs and Goblins. Troll Horde, who you mentioned. Then it was 9 to 10 Peg Bretonia. How many? 12 Gyros. And then Tom, Ogres. So what's that? 7 out of the 10 skewed, hard meta lists that kind of take something away from your opponent. It's not just bashing them up. That's just kind of where the state of the game is at the moment, I think. What do you think about that?
Yeah, look, I would separate the top 3, I think, in terms of being more egregious. I think Bretonia has taken a big hit, but that's probably for another day. Yeah, I just think it's about interactivity. I think there's skill in vampires, but it's not the same. You're not playing the same game. And that's, yeah, like the psychology is a big part of it. Terror doesn't get talked about much, but you just bail out terror all the time, like, and just being synergistic with those minus leadership things, like just to terror check someone or to whack an ethereal thing into its flank that you can't deal with it. It's just not the same game. And I've had that experience with Tomb Kings as well, like where there's aspects of that, and I think Tomb Kings have a very cheap roster too, but I do think that they're probably, at the moment, with the results in other tournaments we've covered here too, like they're still almost the best answer to Cathay and Gunlines as well, which are prominent in the metagame. So without there being comp of some sort, I can't see anything changing. I think, to me, there's no question that it's Cathay, Tomb Kings, Vampires that are the best armies, and that Vampires is the best against Tomb Kings. So you're weak to Exiles. If a player knows what they're doing and maybe even has to take Banner of Lady's Grace, it's not a very difficult plan to figure out, but Veteran wrecks you when you're screaming, but the screams are what wins against Tomb Kings, I think. So, or Ethereal. But yeah, I don't think this is really like, we're not here to take credit, but we have been talking about this for a long time. And it's not that it's just not great. It's also that it's not very enjoyable. There's just not a lot you can do about it, really, I felt like. I respect my opponents who put up a great fight and were really sporting about it, but I do think it's, like they would have a right to say, but why don't you do the same things I have to do, like run away and all that sort of stuff. Like, which, when people talk about, it's a rank and flank game, morale is as much a part of that as ranks are, and you just don't participate, except for when you re-roll your leadership. So, which I don't know. How's the necromancer? I assume there's some vestige of human psychology in there. Like, it's still human, right? Or like sentient, but you just re-roll. Like I don't know. I would love to see. I'm not expecting anything. I'm not going to wish list here, but I don't know if you can unbundle even one, make a small adjustment. I think it's just better to say, having played it at a tournament, it was probably the least work I had to do for one of the best results I've had. And I think I played as well as I could with what I had in front of me, but it wasn't like I came away thinking, oof, like I really made a great decision in that context. I just did what the army did and just waited for the odds to turn in my favor.
Yeah, and I say this as a fan of competitive Warhammer. I believe it's very enjoyable. I think these tournaments, you expect the hardest list to win and there to be hard lists. This is where you'd play them, I think. This is where you play these skewed lists, but I think it's just dangerous territory to kind of attach labels to it when often it is just lists. Just lists, sure. There's skill involved, but the list sways the top results so much. But it kind of leads into the point, this is not me having a whinge, it kind of leads into the point of the tournament that you are organising now and how to kind of make an event or a tournament for a bit more diversity in Warhammer experience.
Yeah, well, I guess we got to put our money where our mouths are, really. Like, we're not here to sort of tear anyone's character down or anything like that at the moment. It's just that, there's a lot of talk about, there's been a lot of high-level tournaments, and I just don't think it's rocket science. As you say, I think it is list, and that's not what we've been doing on this channel. We try to point out places where you can make a decision in the game, and that decision is something that has consequences. And look, that's probably what I would say about the games I was playing, the good decisions my opponents would make. So Gomo made some like speculative plays, but at least he was trying something in my mind to do something different, and that caught me off guard, but I just waited. Tom was very cagey, and that meant, again, like I expected a full send ogre Death Star into me, but he made a lot of good decisions that just didn't matter. And Dave, I think, like from the get-go, deployed really well, took his moment, and it just didn't matter. And I would like to try to find the simplest way to have an event where people get to play the game, because it takes so long and people put so much effort into the armies, which we are fans of. Like, we are one-day event people who like to see beautiful armies. These are sort of non-negotiables for us, and that might stand in contrast to like what is being played elsewhere, and that's fine. People want to play that, but yeah, I feel like the majority of people want to bring their army, and they want to have a game where the decisions matter, and it's you know, not just get your ship blown away on the first turn, depending on the dice rolls of your opponent, or throw your stuff into that you can't kill your opponent's. It's a kill points game. So yeah, looking at like some of the solutions, and the pack is on our Discord in the tournament section, but an easy fix, I think Highlander is a good start. I think diversity is what we want to see in the game. Like, you know, if you're only able to, I think a lot of the problems come from skew. Like, even if I could just run one Tomb Banshee, even if you can run one Lantern or one Cannon, well, everything's going to have something that's better in a matchup, even if it's not better in terms of points. Like, there are some matchups where, like, a Cygor might be really good in Beastman just because a Stone Thrower's got utility in that matchup. So I think that's diversity is good, and it can outweigh things. So we're running a tournament where you can only play one of each unit entry. I also think the other sneaky thing that other people, and I want to give credit, Paddy, you'll know, maybe it was the Behemoths who did it, but I think Mountain Miniatures also restricted the amount of magic items.
Yeah, low fantasy, which Mountain Miniatures and Old World Behemoths did it at their team's event. Yeah,
I think that's another easy place. Extremely common items are an absolute joke for starters. And then beneath, like, there's just no reason they should exist. And I think Ring of Jet is going to make that obvious, if it hasn't already. But underneath that, there's just so many cookie cutter, Slapper, Talisman of Protection, Ogre Blade type characters that run around. And you're just seeing the same combos that are unbeatable because those abilities stack, you know. So taking that away, if you get a combat, like I did get a combat in my last game with Dave where the Black Orc champion got to swing first on the White Lord BSB, wounded it twice. I had an armor save parry roll. I had to go to my regen. I failed one of them, so I lost a wound. Like, all of that drama is back, you know, where, like, at the moment, the guy riding the monsters just carrying the magic items, you know?
Yeah.
He's carrying the ward safe. That's all, you know? Like, maybe give him a sword for fun. But I think that's what people really want to see. Like, some of the best moments on this channel have been general v general, or just guy fighting something else. Like, you know, even, like, the Keeper of Secrets, can you get this doppelganger off, or you can't? That sort of thing. So, yeah, Highlander, magic items restricted, and the big one, and I think this is also when we were talking about just that start of game procedure, and the game, the complexity is a feature, not a bug, but it is getting a little bit, especially with match play stuff, a little bit impossible to know everything. And if you're rolling all these meaningless dice and games aren't finishing, then we've also just made skirmish is just open order. And that's more to do, I think the skirmish rules are broken, but it's more to do with speeding up the game. That it's, while you're sitting there dicking around, feeling like a dick, because you're leaning a guy on a hill, then you're pointing another guy, is he the closest one? Am I coherent or not? You just forget all that, and they're just open order. And that might be a blunt fix. Other people have opinions, but I think you've said, Paddy, like, the TOs are the ones who make the game. Like, Games Workshop, like, whatever you think, it's great. They're beautiful models. I wish Cathay, I could paint it or I could afford it, but the Lantern is a joke competitively, and it's a bit of a kick in the face for anyone who thinks that they're going to be stewards of the game rules.
Yeah, I was just on the GW note with the Tomb King release recently. The Tomb King and the Empire one. I haven't seen what's in the Dwarf Slayer thing, but no one bloody likes that. But dwarves never seem to like anything they get. No. But I, interestingly, when I was listening to Squarebase, who were doing their leak video of it, when they were running through the Empire stuff, I actually think GW, though, is listening more than people think to the complaints, the content that is created. In the past, we've seen Sisters of the Thorn nerfed into the ground, Poison nerfed into the ground. These are not necessarily good decisions, but they are showing that they are somehow listening to what's happening and making decisions based off on it. So on the balloon, I know you're less bullish on this than others, but I do believe they will do something. Whether or not it's the right decision, I have less faith in, but I have no doubt that they, as everyone says, they've sold enough models, we can bloody pop it. So everyone will have their 4 balloons sitting on the shelf. But, I don't know. I think the main solution is the one of everything. I like balanced lists. That's generally what I try to do. In that list, I had 2 Doom Divers and 2 Manglers. 2 Doom Divers is going to be hard to part with if I was playing competitive, but I wouldn't miss it if it meant for a better game. And there's, like, Orcs and Goblins roster has so much stuff in it. That's a bit of a lucky point for me. Wood Elves, not so much. And their advantage is skirmish. So, you give and you get, but it probably still makes a better game anyway. On the skirmish point as well, that exact instance of where you're like fiddling around with a guy happened in my game against Paul. And I was trying to make sure that it was the closest. I could charge, so I overran into the other cannon. And it took me like 4 minutes. And I was like, oh, God. I was just like, I had 8 guys. I was like, I'm not quite sure. And then he was like, oh, wait, there's skirmishers on his shooting turn. I can hit as many of these with my cannon as I like. And he just lined them up. Killed 4 wolf rabbits. So
it's actually brought me back around on intention. I was listening to the English. I really highly recommend for lots of reasons. Even though, like, I find myself fast forwarding for like gameplay tips more than anything. Like, I think what them winning means so much to them. And they deserve it. Like, they clearly put a lot of effort in. I just want to say, if you haven't listened to Ed's interview of Richie and Tom, I think there's just a lot of emotion that is worth reading into. Like, there's exhaustion and emotion, but they sort of talked about this as well. And this sort of stuff, like, just with intention and wanting to be good sports. And I think that sort of needs to come back with, like, we are spending this time. I don't want laser pointers. Don't. Like, we need to get away from that, like, we aren't playing. The game just isn't strong enough to play with that sort of intensity. It's got to step back. But the problem is, you've got to have a game that's worth stepping back from and being able to have a laugh and say, yeah, that time you rolled the 6 up and next time I'll roll it. And currently, like, there are armies that don't need to worry about that. And that's a shame, because there's underneath the hood, there's all these other armies that are great. And, like, you'll probably find that our content will start to veer back into that after this event. After the Oldhammer content sort of comes out and we ramp up into what's probably going to be at least more fun in that way because of the way the armies are constructed. But I do think, like, that intention of, like, I'm going to put my guy here because I want to overrun if I overrun. Like, I find that people pull the rug out on you more than I would like. And so I was down on intention when I first started playing Warhammer. But, like, we've put in the pack for us, like, we're not here to settle your rules disputes. If you want to, like, get the full stops and the commas out, this is just not the right game for it. The rules are worded differently from page to page. So, yeah, I think that idea of, like, so I'm going to do this, there has to be a bit more negotiation. And I was glad to see, like, the things like remains in play, vortexes and things. It's just like, look, you can dispel whenever you want, really, that one. Like, you're not going to, if you miss that step and then you realize, oh my God, it's going to cave in my whole left flank, you at least get a roll off. Little things like that. Like, you just got to do it. It's part of the game.
Absolutely. It's as you said, there's enough in the game to make it great, but sometimes in the nitty gritty of it, you just lose it, and it's often not what people want. The other thing that is in this tournament or this pack is interaction with terrain, which I think the Western City Wargamers first scenario did well with the special feature in the middle that you're rolling a dice and it's a different effect each turn. You're looking into certain things like that as well.
Yeah, look, I guess we want to promote something that's like a functional tournament that can be played more efficiently. And so terrain being set up in advance too creates a bit of hype. The idea that everyone plays on the same board, I think it is too standardizing sometimes. I know, Patty, you've been probably opposed to it more than me. over time. But I think we are I think they're very inventive, Western Sydney Wargamers, and I take my hat off to like the terrain is very deliberately placed, and the water feature was very clever in the final map, particularly that it was in a place where the water feature mattered massively. But yeah, I want to just do I think the terrain is part of the game. The impassable terrain video I put out today, I was shocked at, like, I just thought that was a throwaway piece of terrain we'd done once on forest hills. But I do look forward to the different interactions with terrain, and if there are a way that you can create lopsided scenarios for people who take risks, I think that's really good. And if you can turn up, you know, as a way of balancing armies too, that if there's a spread of effects, then those skew, or armies that might want to lean a particular way that tend to shut someone out of a game in a just bull rush map, then if there's something that can just throw a spanner in their works, then it just makes it more interesting, and people can like play a more tactical game instead of just turning up and doing the same thing with their army over and over and over and over again.
Yeah. Well, I'd probably like to wrap up by saying thank you to the Western Sydney Wargamers again for a great tournament. We had a great time. Every time we lead into it with incredible amounts of rumination of our game one strategy, but we had a great time, as we always do. Alex and I tend to go through a massive cycle of like stress and
anxiety. This one was better, Paddy. I'm really quite.
Oh, I wonder why that is.
Like, I feel like
because you were running vampire accounts that can't lose.
No, but I'm not on the high. Like, the high elf thing will always be the high, because I think that list, no matter what Alistair says, was like more elegant. But no, I think I just appreciate that people. This wasn't a thought experiment. Like, I love vampire counts. Like, they'd be in my top 3 armies. But yeah, they're just not fair. And so I got to play them, and people were really good natured about it. And yeah, I don't think I'll be playing them in a competition near you for a while yet.
Good. Cool. Well, we should wrap it up there. Anything else you need to finish with?
No, just if you are in Sydney, November 30th, but if you pay, the more people that pay earlier, the more boards we will reveal. So at the moment, there were 2 boards revealed, but I've ticked over from that. I'm away for 3 days, but on Saturday, I will create a video that will put the boards out. So the more people that get their money in earlier, the more we will just reveal more boards. And we have a couple of very interesting ones. Like, I put the blandest ones out first. They're not going to get complicated, but there's effects that you'll be like, wow, that's never been done before. So like an advent calendar, get your money in, and I'll get the boards out. Yeah.
Join the Discord in the description. Join the Patreon and get first dibs on tickets, because you get a spot reserved if you're a Patreon. So if you're a Patreon already as well, let us know whether you want to come or not, because we can reserve your spot right now if you haven't already signed up, which I know a couple have already. But we'll wrap it up there. Alex, thanks for your time, and thanks for everyone for watching. Again, like, comment, subscribe if you can. It really goes a long way. See you next time for the next 2+ chat. See ya.